And one. Welcome to another episode of the Chronicles of Mr. I am Mr. Pierre, and I am joined by a wonderful teacher, dancer, soon-to-be doctor, the one and only Jay Williams. Thank you for coming to the pod, Jay.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. We have the pleasure of working at the same school, a dance school. It's my first time working at a school where dance is so integral to the curriculum with kiddos. But let me just start off what I usually start off by asking guests is just like, how did you get into education?
Yes. So I went to undergrad. I was a dance major in my undergrad, and they had this visual and performing arts education minor. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So I just I took classes for the minor, and then some of the classes had us go into schools and teach dance, for an hour and get our skills, to create lesson plans and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I like this. This is something to have to fall back on. If I don't become a professional dancer or go on tour with Beyonce, that was my dream. I'm if I don't go on tour, okay, I'll be a teacher. And then I graduated and then I started working for a nonprofit called Agency Arts. And we were teaching arts to formerly incarcerated youth in South LA. And then, kids who were in foster care and things like that. So I was teaching dance, and I just felt like I wasn't a good enough dance teacher. I was I need more skills to be a great teacher. So I applied to NYU, and I got into the dance education master's program, and I also got into the dance MFA program. So I was becoming a choreographer, learning how to do that, as well as becoming a dance teacher. And that kind of just happened. I wanted to serve my community better. I felt like I didn't have enough skills or things like that. And I wanted to learn more about being a teacher. So that's why I'm here.
That's how it came to be. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And this is what year of teaching for you?
Year 3.
Year 3. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I have to ask this too, because you started during pandemic. So you had a couple months before everything sort of locked down and shut off. Mm-hmm. What has that been like for you?
Teaching in the pandemic?
Yeah.
Well, I actually started teaching in New York, and it was online, it's virtual. And I had, because of the pandemic, I moved back to California, but I was still teaching in New York. Okay. So the time difference, I would get up at 4:30 in the morning and teach at 5 a.m., until 2. Had a whole day, and before people really got up and, did anything. So it was kind of challenging, and that was also unclear of I was paying for rent in New York, but living in California, and I was staying with my mom, and I'm I'm too grown, to me. But also, no one knew what was happening, and New York was the epicenter. So it was I don't even know when I can go back to New York. I don't even know when. So I was just stuck in California teaching online with my mom as a grown adult and unsure of the world, what's happening. I'm what do I do with my life? So it was really challenging. And then halfway through the year, New York opened back up, the school system, in person. So I had to fly back to New York within a week because they just emailed, okay, school's opening on Monday. So I bought a ticket, flew back to New York, was teaching in person, but it was all these COVID protocols. We couldn't touch each other and dance. We can only have 5 kids in a studio. And it was just so much. And then just readjusting back to New York life after living with my mom for months. It was really hard. But, I made it through. And I ultimately decided to move back to California because, New York wasn't as fun anymore for me personally because of COVID. So I was I think I'm gonna just move back to California. And Liz, the dance director, reached out from Gabriella, and she was we have a position, would you love to work full time here? And I was oh, this is perfect. I used to sub there, and when I was an undergrad, so the minor courses, I used to go to Gabriella and teach dance there.
Oh, awesome.
So that's
so there was a bit of a history with Gabriella before full time. Awesome. So you know what Gabriella was pre COVID.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Because I only know of it afterwards. And so as we were saying before recording, so COVID happens, everything locks down. There's a year online. We come back and it's this funky, I don't know what it was like for you, but for me, it was this funkiness of 1 year ago or before, like just like double dutch wanting to jump in,
right?
But then like getting hit with the rope. And so you step back again, like, oh, let me try. And then it never felt as if like we were in the groove the way that it was in the before times. So would you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like we had to be like so like present with the kids and like everything's gonna be okay and like welcome to school. And it's like in reality, it's like I don't even know if we'll be here tomorrow. Like, you know, because it was in New York, the school was shutting down every other week. 1 week of school shut down for a week. 1 week of school. So it was like, oh, did I even make the right decision coming back to New York, teaching when I was like at home half the time.
Right.
But yeah, it was very like double dutch.
Yeah. And so I think it's different for a classroom teacher versus a dance teacher. I only get the glimpses of like the warm up where I'll do the stretches with the kids. Like what is your typical day with the kiddos like?
Yeah, so like we enter the dance space, like we greet them at the door. We'd start with the warm up. So as they like start remembering the warm up, they can like lead it on their own. And we kind of like, you know, take attendance and like do things while they're doing the warm up by themselves. And then we'll just come together and talk about like what we're learning today. It's like a mini lesson. So we'll teach them like, okay, today we're learning the running man, you know, so we'll do like how to do the running man. We do it like half the class or line by line. We do it with partners, you know, things like that. And then it's like, okay, go ahead and then practice on your own. And then we'll come back together and show. And sometimes it's more like, okay, we'll put the running man mix with a different dance move we learned the week before. So they'll build on what they learned and then create like a whole dance. They can create a warm up or like a whole dance after that. So we just teach them like little moves, like mini lessons every day that builds up to like one big unit.
And if you have kiddos who are like, Miss, I've got 2 left feet. I can't do the running man. I can barely do the walking man. Like, how are you able to connect with those kiddos to encourage them, motivate them so that they're just like, I'm just going to chill here in the corner?
Yeah. So usually like I'll notice like kids who aren't like participating. So as the time that we give them to work on their own, I'll actually go over and like, you know, maybe just bring other people, maybe someone who is really good at the running man and one person who isn't, bring them together and then we'll work on it together. We'll go through the steps, kind of just like reteach that person. And if they still don't feel comfortable, they can be the DJ for the day, you know? So I give them like, okay, well, you want to be the DJ? You want to press start when I say start? And if they feel more comfortable like with the music, I let them just do that for the day and then try again the next day.
Cool. Is there anything that you found, because having lived on the East Coast as well, East Coast and West Coast are different. We just have to acknowledge that.
Very
Kiddos are kiddos, but it's a different vibe. Is there anything that you have seen in the time that you've been a teacher, whether it be from undergrad time, the before COVID time, that you're like, I wish I knew this sooner because it just helps me out so much as a teacher?
I wish I knew this sooner. So I think the biggest thing is like lesson planning. I think on the train in New York, I'll just like be on the train, like, okay, this is what I'm doing today. Okay, great. I got it in my mind. And I'll go to work and I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't really plan this out because I was planning in my mind. So I think, you know, I've learned lesson planning like in college and stuff, but like I don't think they stress enough how important it is to like lesson plan and scaffold things and like think about transitions and like how important it is to have the agenda on the board, because the kid will ask you every 5 seconds, what are we doing next? What are we doing next? It's like, oh, so, you know, just little things like lesson plan, very detailed, you know, like everything needs to be written down. So, you know, and I keep it on my computer screen. I print it out. It's like, I'm always looking at it because I always forget like what I'm doing next. I think the biggest thing is like lesson plans, every detail.
Cool. So for those first year teachers or new teachers who are listening, lesson planning is super important. However that works for you, whether you're analog and you need that, you know, physical, or if you're digital and you have it on your computer, but don't try to wing it. Like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. Don't try to wing it. Because kids will always throw a wrench in that, and it'll get jacked up real quick. All right. I would highly agree that having those plans are super important, because things happen, whether it be technology where you have issues with that, or if it be like, oh, I'll just copy it in the morning. Nah, kid. Nope. That copy machine is going to get jammed as soon as you need it. Yeah.
I lost my train of thought, but I lost it. I forgot. It was one more thing, but it's okay.
It'll come back. It usually does. Is there a particular type of dance that you gravitate more towards?
Yes, West African.
West African. Yes. And for a person who may not be familiar, what does that encompass, or what falls under the umbrella of West African dance?
Yeah, I would say just like the type of movements are like, so like a lot of footwork. It's a lot of loose, like your arm swings, chest work, like out and in, and just like it's very like freeing and loose, but also like you're listening to the drum. Like there's rhythm involved, there's community involved, like, you know, like dancing in a circle, or just like sometimes they don't even teach you the step, like how we break it down in ballet. They're like, okay, follow me. And you're like, all right, cool. You know, we're just vibing, we're grooving, listening to the music. So that's kind of how I visualize West African.
Okay, awesome. And what would be your next two after West African? West African's at the apex at the top.
Yeah, I would say modern dance is like more grounding. West African is too, but it's also like you're kind of like digging deep, like, oh, this contraction is like helping the next movement. You know, it's like the floor is helping me lift up. So it's like kind of more grounding and just like thinking about the smaller things that you probably don't think about in your body to help you move.
Awesome. And then number three? There is a number three?
I would say ballet, because I have a lot of, opinions about ballet being like the required dance style at every university, the required dance style for you to get an MFA and get a master's to teach. You have to have that. And I don't agree with that, because everyone's body isn't a ballerina's body. But I would just say ballet, because you are taught like discipline, and like it kind of snatched my body up when I was doing it like 5 days a week. So I got snatched. So probably just that one. But, I have a lot of opinions about ballet.
If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it, because there are several things in education that seem to be sort of like this standard. Mm-hmm. However, it was who established that standard that makes it questionable, if you will. And I think about the kiddos that we serve, and it's like, yeah, I'm not a dancer, so I can't speak to dancing. I can't speak to dance. However, having taught now, this will be year 15. There are quite a number. Yeah, there are quite a number of things that I see that are beginning to change. One of them being those standardized tests that it's like, why? The other thing too is just college. Like, not everyone wants to go to college. I recall growing up and there being vocational schools of like, I want to be a beautician. Why do I need to know X, Y, or Z? Or I want to be a mechanic. Why do I need? And I think as a teacher, being able to know and to articulate to a kiddo, hey, the reason why you'll need math, maybe you're not going to need trigonometry. However, if you're going to run a business, you got to know some financial literacy. You got to know how to crunch these numbers. You got to know, how to balance your books. So that's important. And being able to articulate that to a student, to a kiddo, so that they know like, oh, this is why it's relevant to me, as opposed to me who I was a blurred. I was into science. So like, oh, I'm going to be in front of a microscope. Okay, this is why I need to know this. Great. We're both being taught same things, but how deep or how far I'm going to go with it, that's going to be on me. But just saying, oh, you need this, or everyone's going to go to a university, for me, just doesn't make it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. And just the fact that to get an MFA, you have to have an MFA to teach dance in universities. And all of the MFA programs for dance require you to do a ballet audition, and then you'll get cut. And then it's contemporary, and then you get cut. And then it's interviews and get to know yous, and then you're solo. So it's like, what about if I was trained in tap or West African or modern or hip hop? There's no way I can get into an MFA for dance to teach in colleges. And there are some people who like there might be a lot of different MFAs, but the ones that I know of, like, I don't know. So that I think that's really problematic, because if I, if I wanted to go to NYU and do my dual masters and I wasn't a ballet dancer, I wouldn't be able to get the MFA from NYU. It's just like, that sucks that you don't offer all styles of dance for that requirement. So
seems a bit gatekeeping in that.
Yeah.
Wanting to keep certain folks in who have access to certain things, and either intentionally or unintentionally keep other folks out.
Yeah.
What is, because right now this is that time of year where there's a lot of things swirling, but what is bringing you joy, whether it be in this moment, this week, this period in your life? What's putting a smile on Dr. Williams' face?
I think just like doing yoga. I do yoga all the time, and just like really just like self-care. It's like, okay, this is work, but then when I'm off work, this is what's going to make me happy. So it's like eating healthier, or like working out, or just hanging with friends, or watching my favorite shows. Like, I'm really into that right now. It's like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And the work is going to stay at work at 3:00. I'm not answering a text or email from work. So I've been, doing that. And my coworkers are like, yeah, if Jai's off, she's off. I'm like, yeah, don't call me or text me on the weekend, because I need to like fulfill like what I need for myself. And I think that's what's making me happy.
Excellent. All right. I love to ask guests too, are there any books that you've read or you're reading that you would highly recommend?
I have a lot of books that I have not read that I want to read. So I just buy books and I'm like, I'm going to get to it.
Yeah.
But one book that I really strongly want to read is Between the World and Me. And another one, All About Love. Those are my top two that I'm like, I have to read this soon, So I want to read those.
Yeah. Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yeah.
Awesome book. Cool. If I know that being a dancer, there's got to be music. So is there a playlist or your top 5 at least songs at the moment that's bringing you life?
Yeah, top 5. So Beyonce. I'm sorry. Beyonce's, album.
Say less.
Church Girl. Church Girl is like my top 1 right now. Let's see. Let me look at my playlist. Oh, Burner Boy, Last. That's like my favorite song. I'll say Brent Faiyaz. He has a song called Price of Fame that I really like. I think that's 4. And then Kendrick. I love Kendrick. So I can't think of a song, but.
And that's fine. If we're going straight off of albums, that's okay.
Kendrick's new album.
So Kendrick's new one, Beyonce, Burna Boy, Last is a great song. He did another song with Ed Sheeran that was pretty good too. And then there was what was the other one that you mentioned?
Oh my gosh, I'm clicking. Oh, I said Brent, Kendrick, Beyonce. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It
was the Brent one.
Okay, Brent.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to say thank you. And the reason why I want to say thank you is because when I see other women of color on campus, I got to tip my hat off to you. And particularly too, as a middle school teacher, I know my lane is middle school. I can go down to elementary and I can visit with the kinder babies, and that's fine. I also know I could go up to high school and I could do a day or two, maybe even a week. But I know my lane is middle school 100%. People say it's too volatile. The kids are all over the place, but I love it. I know that's my sauce, my jam. For teachers like yourself, who you see all the kiddos,
the whole school,
the whole school, I gotta give you your props, your flowers, all of the kudos, because my, oh my, that is not easy. And to go like for you too, you could have one period where you're with the kinder babies, and then the next period you're like with 8th grade, and then the next period you're with. So how are you able to regulate when it comes to that sort of thing?
That was the most stressful thing last year. It's like, okay, kinder requires like, oh my gosh, like, let's do this. Okay, big, okay. Like, you're just talking to them different. And then eighth grade, it's like, all right, come to your spots. Like, it's like a different person. And then it's like, okay, then first grade, so right after, and then third grade. So it's just like, I feel kind of like bipolar sometimes, like with my emotions, because I'm just like so nice and sweet, and then so tough, and then so chill, like for third grade or something. So it's just like, it's like a range of emotions. But I think I struggled with that last year. But this year, it's like, I'm just trying to stay like one person. Like, like I want to be like, create a routine where it's like, I'm this person all the time. And it's like, I don't want to like overly do something for one grade and then the opposite of overly do something for another grade, I just want to be like, okay, this is what it is. And I think I just want to like not show my like frustration so much with the kids. Like, I remember one time last year in first grade, I like yelled at the kids. I'm sorry. And one kid was like, Miss, like, you're yelling at us. Like, that hurt my feelings. And I went home, like, I felt so terrible. And I was like, oh, I need to stop, like, yelling. And to me, it's like raising my voice, but they're like, you're yelling at us. And it's like, it makes me feel this way. So I'm like, okay, well, let me not yell. I'm just going to be like, ask questions or just stay calm. So I want to be like more neutral with all the classes and not like show my frustration as much. But it is very hard to teach all classes in one day.
And I think that's to any teachers who are listening too, of just recognizing the real, like, that happens to all of us, where that emotion comes out. And then you look back and like, okay, how can I do better? Next, how can I do better tomorrow? How can I do better next week? And I think if you're a reflective teacher, which I see that you are, you're going to have those moments of like, how can I do better? And whether that be with the delivery, whether that be with the lesson, and no matter how great you think you are, them kiddos will let you know, nah. And then whatever happened or whatever worked with one cohort of kiddos doesn't mean it's going to always translate to the next. So cool. Miss Williams, thank you very much for taking this time to talk and to share just a number of gems. Anyone who's listening, they were there. If you were listening, like, I heard one of like lesson plans. Make sure that you're planning out your lessons. Don't try to wing it, no matter how much experience that you have. And then two, these kiddos, our kiddos, all kiddos will let you know. We'll let you know. So this has been another episode of the Chronicles of Mr. I'm Mr. Pierre. She's Miss Williams, and this has been a great episode. And we're out.
Thank you.
Thank you.